U.S. military is part of the fight against the coronavirus and at the same time is fighting an outbreak aboard one of its deployed aircraft carriers. Joining us now for an exclusive interview is the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Nora. Thank you for having me.
Let's get to that urgent situation aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt as the captain is pleading for help. Is it time to evacuate that ship?
I don't think we're at that point, Nora. We were moving a lot of supplies and medical assistance out to the carrier in Guam. We were providing additional medical personnel as they need it. I'm pleased to report that none of them are seriously ill. At this point in time, we're trying to make sure that we contain the virus, that we deploy testing kits so we get a good assessment of how much of the crew is infected, and then, of course, taking other measures to ensure we can get the carrier up and ready again to continue its mission.
I mean, this letter from the commander of the aircraft carrier was pretty stunning. He said sailors do not need to die, and he recommended removing a majority of the personnel. Is that under consideration?
Well, nobody, of course, needs to die at this point in time. We're not at war. Priority number one is taking care of our service members and their families.
Are you concerned about military readiness now that two aircraft carriers, the Roosevelt and the USS Ronald Reagan, have cases of COVID-19?
I am not. We have more than two carriers in the inventory. We have a great alliance network of allies and partners who work alongside us to keep threats at bay.
I did read this request for assistance from the commander carefully. And while he said the Roosevelt could be ready to fight, the captain says they would fight sick and there would be losses to the virus. How do you weigh that?
Well, I have not had a chance to read that letter, read it in detail. Again, I'm going to rely on the Navy chain of command to go out there to assess the situation and to make sure they provide the captain and the crew all the support they need to get the sailors healthy and get the ship back at sea.
You served in the Army as a war planner. How is planning for a pandemic the same as for a war, or how is it different?
You know, we typically think of National Guard dealing with a hurricane in a state or a series of tornadoes. In this case right now, we have 54 hurricanes out there in every single state and territory, and we know they're going to grow in size and in their power.
Do you see any evidence that our traditional adversaries, foreign adversaries, are trying to take advantage of that?
I don't know, or not at this time. What we tend to find right now that a lot of countries have turned inward and are focusing inward. So that doesn't mean we should be less vigilant. If anything, we're calling upon our forces deployed abroad, and those number well over 100,000 in 150 countries, to make sure they remain vigilant and safeguard the country while we ourselves are turned inward right now to deal with this pandemic.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nora.